we had a knowledge brokers panel where they did objection handling and, got questions from the audience. It's way more interactive, and the speakers feel tangible because after the events, we interact with everybody. It's not like we go behind some green screen, or not green screen, but the the back room, and then never see them again, and then we take our private jets and then we're out of it, right? It's like we interact.
Flipping the bird as you leave with a glass of champagne in your other hand, right?
Exactly. After doing 30 minutes on authenticity, we give people what they're looking for. And we just want to separate ourselves. So, like, our content's different. Our events are going to be different.
Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney.
Today, Sean, we have an incredible guest on today. We have Eric Simon, founder of The Broke Agent and co-founder of BAM. What's up, man?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Today is a great day in BAM world. I'll tell you that. No problems going on whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm sure it's nice and clean like our days too. So yeah, we're going to jump into that. So a little background on Eric. So he is the founder of The Broke Agent, which he started himself, and became a co-founder of BAM, which is Broke Agent Media, and he's also the chief of content. Some of the background that I found on Eric was that he graduated from USC in 2012, communications and entrepreneurship major. Do I have that correct?
Damn, you did your digging. Yeah. A very difficult major, communications. That's the one that all the big
kinesiology, right? Isn't
I remember
that the other tough one?
My comm friends in college were like, "Yeah, today we watched the movie." I was like, "Oh, sounds good."
Yeah, communications is basically how can I just get through college? I mean, I had a great GPA and everything, but how do I just keep partying, basically?
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
Still take classes and go to campus and be in classes with a bunch of attractive women.
Right.
That's why I took communications.
I love it. Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity. Do I have that correct as well?
God. Yeah.
Way back machine.
Yeah, we're fraternity boys too. We were Phi Gamma Delta, which they call Fiji on most campuses.
Nice. Yeah.
And then also you were the staff of the Daily Trojan, which I read is like a 100-year-old independent student newspaper, which I think is going to kind of play into some of our stuff today too, which is pretty cool.
What did you pull up my 2013 resume? How did you even find this up?
I'm like, what can I pull from that's at least 10 years old so that I am as incorrect as possible?
Eric, have you done anything in the last year or two?
Yeah, exactly. The Daily Trojan. I put that on my resumes to get jobs after college. I think I maybe had one article on the Daily Trojan.
Right. Oh, I love it.
If it was even published, I think they probably rejected it.
The guest article.
I love it.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Used to be an agent in Beverly Hills, and you're a big sports guy.
Big sports guy. Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right. So first question.
That was good. Yeah.
First question. So from my perspective, you are building what I would like to call a community of real estate agents, experts, speakers, and leaders. And the first 2 year Broke Agent, was that like your ultimate goal? Like fast forward to today, I think you've been doing this like almost 10 years. You fast forward to today, like, did you kind of envision that when you first started? Did it kind of morph into that?
It evolved really naturally. I got my license in 2014, and I'll just give you a brief background to show how the Broke Agent came to be and then kind of what my thoughts were when I started it. But
awesome.
I got my license because I was the receptionist at a brokerage in Beverly Hills, a temporary receptionist. Yes. I did it because I was basically just making vines and posting Snapchats. I was in between jobs. I worked at the Laugh Factory Comedy Club, was doing social media. And basically this girl hit me up and said, "Hey, I see you're losing your mind. You should probably get a job and come work at this brokerage." I didn't know if it was residential, commercial. I didn't know anything about real estate. So I became the receptionist, got hired as a marketing assistant, then became a buyer's agent. As I was a buyer's agent, that's when I was doing all the cold calling, the door knocking, the sitting the dead open houses. I was basically an unpaid intern. It was like every buyer I brought in, I would get 40%. Every listing I brought in, I would get 30%, but I was bringing in absolutely nothing. Yep. So I was basically just driving around Los Angeles, spending money on gas and sushi. And it was
right.
One of the most unproductive 6 months of my life, but it birthed the Broke Agent because I couldn't believe how successful all these other agents were on social media or in my brokerage. Like all I would see on social media when I was sitting these dead open houses was the grind culture, the hustle culture, the motivational quotes, the just solds, the just listeds. And it really bothered me because I had read that stat that everyone repeats ad nauseum, that 87% of agents fail in their first 5 years. So I'm like, where the hell are these agents?
I mention that all the time. Sorry about that.
Everyone does. Yeah. It's the only thing I know. It's the only stat that I know besides every baseball stat known to mankind. Pick a World Series. I'll give you the winner. Pick a World Series from 1980 to 2024.
Sean's more the sports history dude.
2008. If you guys want to know the answer, it doesn't matter. How about this? Phillies. There you go. 2008.
Woo, good.
Over the Rays. Phillies. 2008 over the Rays.
Pretty good.
So yeah,
are you as good at receptioning as you are with the baseball stats?
Oh, I was horrible at receptioning. Imagine being a 24-year-old post-grad frat guy, basically answering.
Just like us.
You'd be like, good afternoon, Hilton and Highland. I remember I always had to work on my inflection voice. Good afternoon, Hilton and Highland. Yeah. One moment, please. One moment, please.
Did you have a mirror in front of you to make sure you were smiling as you said that?
A little eyebrow thing real quick.
I should have. It was actually really intense. Hilton and Highland's a great brokerage. It's where the Altman brothers came from.
Yep.
Very high-end.
Mauricio
luxury.
Came from there as well, correct?
Mauricio came from there, exactly. So he had started the agency, I think, the year I got there. So he had just left. His name was still on the phone. I remember looking at it. He was like Voldemort there, he who must not be named, when he left. Where was I going with this? So I started the broke agent with a friend of mine, actually, because we became partners. Once I dropped the buyer's agent role, I said, let's just form a team and become partners, where we basically did the same thing that we were doing when we were buyer's agents, and just created content that was the inner monologue of a struggling real estate agent, someone who had a ton of anxiety, someone who was not crushing it. And the stuff that just wasn't being said online, because if you're an agent, why would you post all of the insecurities that you're having? Why would you post all of the losses going on? And it really, caught fire very quickly because there was nothing else like that out there. So to answer your question, sorry for being so long-winded.
No, I appreciate it.
I didn't have the vision of, this is going to become a media company. It basically started like, let's start these social channels. Let's see what the traction's like. And then my initial instinct was to go blog. So we started thebrokeagent.com, and I would kind of write BuzzFeed style blogs that were like 5 things to do while you're bored in an open house. But it was never like this grand thing, like this is going to become a media company with YouTube. But we did start a YouTube channel. So I kind of did all of this at the very beginning. In
like early on, you were kind of like progressive.
Yeah, but it was all humor stuff. It wasn't any value stuff because I had nothing of value to offer yet. It was basically just the grievances. It was the pain points. It wasn't the social media chops that I have now because I had no idea what I was doing on social media. I was just posting shit.
But it speaks to a lot of the agents. I mean, there's probably a lot more agents out there that are struggling, especially right now, than the agents that are like, I just did $20 million this year, or whatever it may be. Well,
blogging is very near and dear to my heart.
Tim's a blogger.
That's kind of how I started too. I mean, I didn't turn into this massive, media company, but it's really how I built my career as a solo agent here in Philly. I mean, I grew up here my whole life, grew up in the burbs, lived in the city for like over 20 years between college and after college. And I started a personal brand called Philly Urban Living. And the reason I started that is because I broke into the business when I was 30 because I got laid off. And I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to compete with like the Tom Tools of the world that have been crushing it for like 10 years? So I did it through content marketing. That's kind of how I got started as well.
Yeah, blogging was kind of the vision, right? Like in 2014, 2015, Barstool Sports was just popping off, like Bleacher Report, all these sports blogs that I was reading. And I thought that was the North Star of let's build the social media channels to then have a big website, because that was kind of the thing. It's like, I want to go on thechive.com. I want, what were some other ones?
There was Curbed, like, you had Curbed for real estate, you had Eater for food, you had all these like big
collegehumor.com.
Yep.
Like there were all these kind of funny websites. And I thought like, all right, this is going to go down the funny real estate comedy sketch angle. Let's do long form, funny YouTube videos, and let's try to wrap advertisement. I mean, I really had no monetization game or vision as I was building this until now.
Well, that's awesome. It brings us to our next question. So we kind of look at you, and again, I don't want to like say this literally, but like almost like the Barstool of real estate. And
thank you. Finally.
Yeah.
Finally someone sees it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of
all this hard work. Nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you look at Barstool and where they started and where they've gone into like a multifaceted just beast of like content and, brand and, doing the whole thing. But so tell us about that business model. I mentioned that and that hit home with you. Why does that hit home?
Well, that's basically what Byron and I talked about when we first had these conversations, is how do we make a different media company that speaks to the agent today, the agents of change? How do we create a media company that is unfiltered, that has personalities, that has humor, that has edge, that isn't behind a paywall, that's actually producing content the way people consume it today? We looked at the legacy media companies in existence when we first started having these conversations in 2020, 2021. We saw paywalls, we saw blogs, we didn't see any social clips, and we didn't see any, personalities that seemed relatable to the average agent. And it's not to take anything away from those media companies.
Yeah,
I just mean, like, how do I want to consume content? I consume content through clips and tweets and, blogs. And it's not this, open email, necessarily read a long form blog and not understand who the person is that's even writing it. So, was your question about the business model behind it?
Yeah.
Well, I think from a timing standpoint too, when what you're talking about, what you're like, oh, this is the way it should be, is like with social media now, it's like a reel, a 30-second clip, which people are consuming the most, right? Mm-hmm. So if you can capture that 30-second clip and get their attention, easy to build a following just on that.
Yeah. And I think we saw like how multifaceted Barstool is, where they went super heavy on pods and shows, on podcasts and shows.
Yep.
And we looked at the real estate industry. There's a bunch of podcasts, but they seem to be all affiliated with their own unique brands. It wasn't like an all encompassing, hey, that's a BAM podcast. Like Barstool did such a good job at picking up talent and then bringing that into their network, where it's like, hey, we will provide distribution and thumbnails and editing and, access to our email list and collab posts and help you with the clips and everything. And that's really how this naturally started. Is we had the Overask podcast, Byron had the Real Word podcast, Byron had the Byron Lazine interview show that he would do. And we kind of combined these things, put them under the umbrella of BAM, and then looked for talent like how Barstool does, where they see these creators that are doing something that's completely unique or different voices in the industry. Let's bring them all under one roof. We could help them grow. They help with our brand and vice versa. So that was the goal, and it's working. And
you're saying before is like, it was more like Joe Smith agency would have a podcast or something, and it wouldn't be kind of carved out and separate. It would just be more to promote that business, where you're saying like a Barstool, or like what you're doing is, no, you have the entity here, the brand, and then like bringing people in to
like
to push
niche podcasts under the brand that fit different audiences and like different personality segments of the market. Kind of is that kind of
exactly like we brought in the Massive Agent podcast. That was a podcast that I would go on. When I first started, when I first started in real estate.
Dustin Brome.
Yeah, Dustin.
Yeah, it's a good one.
He was one of our first sign-ons. We've tried other different podcasts. We have Knowledge Brokers.
Yep.
We have
I listened to that one.
We
great.
have the Hot Sheet Show. We have the Overask podcast, which is coming back. We have the Walkthrough podcast, which is real estate marketing, where we have different guests. It's hosted by myself and Dan O'Neill. That's like a marketing specific one. So we're trying to cover different angles, and we've tried some that have worked, some that haven't. And it's kind of fun figuring out how much does the real estate audience actually want, right? Like how much real estate content can an average agent actually consume? Because if it's too much, we want to pull back. We're not going to push 10, 15 podcasts in your face.
That might
just
be
to
a
say,
lot.
hey, these are all BAM podcasts. Like if you're an agent, you're probably listening to one a week, maybe.
It's interesting. So we're big podcast guys, which kind of brought this together. And, we both run businesses. So we're like, hey, what do we want to get out of this thing? We want to grow our businesses. That was number one. We want to make more connections, have more relationships. And to be honest, we just want to learn. Like through podcasting, I got to be honest, you really improve. Someone had said it before, like your articulation. You get a little bit better about speaking, about communicating, about learning. And I got to say, we've been having so much fun. Like in the beginning, we were only like 20 some episodes deep. In the beginning, we're kind of like stiff and like, awkward.
Speak for yourself.
Now Mooney's showing up here with a freaking mustache and like a Hawaiian shirt. I'm like, what the hell's going on over here, bro?
It's a good look.
Yeah, I like it. This is him, which is amazing. And it only took 20 some episodes to come out. But so here's another one for you. I think this one I find interesting. So I'm in real estate, as you just learned, and I belong to the National Association of Realtors. Mm-hmm. So you have said before on a podcast that you're interested in destroying NAR, which I think is absolutely hilarious.
Did I say that?
I did hear that once. And again, If that was a little too much.
Pre-March 15th? Or was that post?
No, I think that was fairly. It might have been on your podcast with Luke. Talk about the NAR stuff, because again, I know you guys like to play the other side of the fence. It's like, hey, there's an opinion out there. This whole NAR lawsuit thing, like some people are like, I'm never going to pay a commission again. It's like, yo, not true. And you got other people like the agents that have been around for like 30, 40 years are like, we're the best. Like, don't screw the buyer. Like, you're getting all these different opinions. Like, you were an agent. What's your opinion of NAR and everything that's going on right now?
If I would give you my opinion, I would literally just be regurgitating the opinions of other people that we've had on our shows. So I'll tell you my personal experience with this NAR lawsuit from like a media company perspective.
Okay.
From a media company perspective, news is extremely interesting. And like, this is a big story that every agent wants to get information from. And it's been really cool to see who is actually like producing the content that is helpful, who is just doing it for clicks, who is doing it for fear mongering. And we're trying to find our lane as a media company as how we want to produce this content. We want to do live streams and webinars with people.
It's not
like
just clicks?
No, of course it is. I mean, it's the best thing that's ever happened to a media company.
Very true.
Clicks and then we find our.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But you saw when it came out, it was just like, okay, you got to be first to news. So you saw these agents kind of green screening it and talking about it like this is the end of the world. You saw all of the news headlines about how 6% commissions are done, buyer's agent commissions are done. Then you saw agents rebutting those and saying, oh, nothing's actually changing. It's just about the way you advertise in the MLS. So this is kind of a non-answer answered to your question, because it's all just from how I'm publishing the content. But I think it's been really cool to see the thirst for this knowledge from agents, where they really are turning to the Tom Ferrys, the Byron Lazines, the Tom Tools. And then you see a bunch of kind of grifting people as well, who are just saying like, oh, I'm doing a NAR settlement webinar. But then you watch the webinar and they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. I would have no idea what I'm talking about if I were to talk about the NAR settlement. I know what it's like to produce content around the NAR settlement and put people in place that really know what they're talking about. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense.
Like I haven't been an active agent since 2020. I've been doing the social media content, the blog content, and basically publishing, finding creators. So I'm not going to give you a great opinion on where I think the NAR settlement is going to take the industry. I could give you the opinions on how we produce content around it and who I think like the right leaders are to execute that message.
But speaking from a media company, it has to be good for business.
It's good. I mean, it definitely, like, we saw our website views explode during this.
Wow.
I think there's a lot of exhaustion around the topic as well. So it's kind of about like walking a thin line of how many, a new settlement happens and all these copycat settlements. How many news headlines do we actually want to post around this? Because when I publish all the Instagram content, I see a lot of agent feedback about, I'm sick of hearing about this. Like, this is not helpful information. Oh, it's another settlement. Oh, home service. Like enough is enough at some point. Yeah. So we're just trying to position the content where it's like, here are the scripts on how to handle these objections. Let's put, Tom Toole, Lisa Chinati, and Byron on the podcast, have them do a panel about what sort of, conversations are they having with their clients? Because they're actually in the field with it, right? I'm not. I'm sitting behind a computer publishing the clips that they are talking about.
Yeah. Oh, super interesting.
I did say to Tim the one time, I found it very interesting or funny. There was one meme, and it was the guy with the stick. It was, look at the blob with the stick, and he's like poking it, and there's like laying on the ground, and it was NAR. And I was like, are you awake? Are you there? Are you dead?
I mean, I think agents are obviously frustrated with the representation, and they see. Byron just did a great long form interview with the president, Kevin Sears. So
I saw that just the other day, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I think that's going to be a really good one.
It was a great conversation. Yeah. You really hear it from the NAR perspective. It was not at all like a got you interview. Byron definitely asked some hard hitting questions about all the money they spend with, Havas Marketing Group and kind of the politics of NAR and the way they hire the new CEO and her role and everything. So it's a really interesting conversation, but I think
it was great. I actually listened to it.
Did you listen to that one?
I thought it was really good. Well, in the beginning too, he's like, the president was like, I'm going to answer what I can answer, but if I can't answer, I'm not going to answer.
Look at you listening to real estate stuff now. It's like, I haven't even listened to it yet.
No, it's really good. It was good because the perspective was from, like, it was good because he was unafraid to ask questions. I think.
Yeah, Byron's really good.
Yeah, he went in
very
with
good.
the mindset of like, hey man, this is an opportunity, and he took it upon himself. Like, I'm actually representing realtors to and their voice, and really, made them answer those questions about the branding and the spending of the money. And, that at one point he was like, well, they did a poll on people of like asking random people, do you know what the difference is between a real estate agent and a realtor? And like, nobody knew.
Yeah,
like,
that's a good question.
Like, where's this $50 million going?
Yeah.
So the effectiveness of the That's Who We Are campaign.
Yeah.
All very interesting. I mean, I think people think a lot of aspects of the real estate industry are a racket, which they are, right? Like the pre-licensing courses to continuing ed to NAR itself. What are our dues actually going to? Everyone just kind of feels frustrated by the way this industry represents them. And that's honestly why we created BAM. So I was probably kidding when I said I want to destroy NAR, but some kind of different representation or just different media outlet that people could tune to where it's voices they trust. It's actually active real estate agents and practitioners. It's not just a bunch of, pontificating journalists kind of saying things where it's like, the information I get from Tom Toole and Byron is incredible because they run the number one teams in their respective areas. Right? Like these are people that are actually doing it. I listen to the broke agent with marketing because that's what he's doing all day. Yeah. It's not people that are just kind of regurgitating talking points from other people. That's why I didn't give like a straight answer on the NAR settlement, because my opinion is just being formed from all these other talking head opinions in our network. And because I'm not an active agent, I didn't want to like misrepresent or just say something to say something. I hope that makes sense.
You don't want to poke the bear. I mean, NAR's a pretty big bear. And here's what's interesting. It's like Mooney, we did an episode a couple ago, and he was just asking me questions because he doesn't, he's bought houses through me, he's sold real estate. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what's a buyer agent? Like, how does that work? Like, why is the commission in jeopardy? Like, why is the buyer going to get hurt? Why is the seller winning? Like, was asking these questions. And to be honest, no one would ever know the answers. The main reason I give, Eric, is you buy and sell real estate every 5, 15, 50 years. Like, think about it. You might buy or lease a car every 3 to 5, 7 years, and you still don't remember how the hell you did it the last time you did it. You're like, is that what the terms were? Is that what it costs? Like, is that how this works? Like, you don't know. Imagine with real estate, an investment that's like 10 or 50 times as expensive as your car, and you've like almost never done it. So when you jump into it, unfortunately, you get a lot of people that are relatively new in this industry and they're good at sales. And they come in and they make, they overpromise and they underdeliver. And when I first got in this business, the one thing I used to tell people, I'm like, I am underpromise and overdeliver all day long. That's how I roll, because for me, I'm a relationship guy. It's like you and I are even talking today because we know someone of the same network. And when you build the relationships in real estate, you actually get really amazing, like undying loyalty of service from your agent because they get crushed. They're taking calls at 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday. They're spending money out of their own pocket on your closing gift. Something goes wrong with the mortgage company or like the use and occupancy. They just drop their credit card down. They're like, I'm never even going to tell my client about it because I don't want to stress them out. They're pregnant. They're getting married. They're moving across the country. Like, this is what good real estate agents do. So when Knowledge Brokers is fantastic, I would recommend that to anyone listening to this today. If you're in real estate, listen to Knowledge Brokers because they really give it to you straight. Those guys and girl are all practicing agents. They run massive teams, as you know. They're like crushing it with UNKJunk. Like they have systems, processes, brands. Like that's who you want to learn from. Like you go, you see stuff, that's who we are. I look at the ad on TV, I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? I don't even know what that, I'm a realtor, I've been a realtor for 15 years. I don't even know what the hell that means. And that's what we're spending our money on, let alone the public has no idea what they're talking about. And that's kind of like, NAR is getting whacked in the face right now because they've been kicking their feet up for a very, very long time. Largest trade organization in the U.S., largest lobbying organization in the U.S., and they're just collecting checks. And now they realize that like there's people who really care about clients in this business, some of the people we just named, and they're like, yo, we're going to lose them as members if we don't step up our game and figure this out because right now it's tired.
They're going to have BAM members. They're going to move to BAM.
I think so.
Right, exactly. A BAM trade organization.
Right.
There's, Jason Haber and Mauricio started a new organization as well. So there's a lot of people that are trying to go a different angle with it. But like I said, I think agents are just very unhappy with the representation. And anytime you mention NAR in content, you see the visceral in the comments.
Well, I think it's probably a disconnect too. It's like, if you poll agents, they don't want that on a commercial. They don't want.
It makes no sense.
This entity doing PR for the agents. I mean, poll the agents, see what they want, and distribute something that's going to impact them on a one-to-one basis, rather than. Guy said it on the podcast. He's like, "Oh yeah, I think we started that campaign 5 years ago." What?
It's like, give them website support, give them social media support, give them entrepreneurial business training, give them like accounting lessons, like tell them how to treat people, like, like customer service. Like, unfortunately, it's just so old. And I got in this business when I was 30. I was in the mortgage business for like 8 years, like in corporate America, and everyone is uber professional. Like corporate America, oh, good morning, how you doing today? It's like I get
that was like Eric at the reception desk.
True.
Good afternoon, Hilton and Highland.
How's it going, Mr. Garrity? And then I got into real estate when I was 30, and I'm from this area, and I'm like practicing in the city. I'm like, everyone is rude as shit. Like, why is everyone so unprofessional? Like, no one's returning emails, no one's returning calls. Like, they're only looking out for their commission. It's the Wild West. And when you're in the Wild West and you have this dream of becoming a real estate agent, you're like, I just want to do well. And these people are just treating you like absolute shit. Like, you need someone like NAR or your local organization be like, yo, this is common. Like, it's common to be treated this way. Like, it's common for people to be like this. Here's what I can do to help you. And that's what I would love to see.
I think a lot of agents will use this as a scapegoat, though, for their lack of, business prowess, basically.
Yep.
Like, everyone's saying this. So again, I'm just regurgitating what people are saying. But I agree with it that the cream will rise to the top here, if that's the right term, in the sense that the agents that know how to articulate their value proposition compared to the agent that got licensed in 2021 and started doing TikTok dances and posting their captions and basically, opening doors as I almost was as a buyer's agent. Like, I would be nervous if I was a buyer's agent, because I'd be like, well, what is it that you do besides schedule on showing time?
Exactly. You don't even know how to write your own paperwork.
Right. Exactly. So I think it's going to weed out some agents. So I think ultimately this will be a good thing, and will be a good thing for BAM as well, because then it's all the agents who really want to consume the knowledge, because that's what we're giving them. If you're an agent that sees this and just gets scared and reads a headline and thinks, oh, so buyer's agents are done, so what am I doing now? Yeah, they're not even consuming our content. It's the people that are doubling down and want to consume this content and get that knowledge in scripting and objection handling.
Yeah. Well, looking for value, right? Like how do we improve? How do we level up? And it's like, all right, ultimately you're going to have maybe less listeners, but more devout listeners that are going to spend more time on your website, at your events, listening to your podcast. It's the more ideal real estate agent, I think. It's
cool to see in this industry how hungry people are for knowledge.
Yeah. Big time.
A lot of people talk shit about real estate agents, and the public perception of real estate agents is extremely, extremely low, below car salesmen, right? But all the agents in our community and the Tom Ferry community, these people are hungry for knowledge. Like, they're attending these webinars, they're taking time out of their day to go to our events or consume our BAMX content or read our blogs or watch our podcasts. Like, these aren't that entertaining, right? It's real estate podcasts. So it's not politics. It's not sports. It's not,
insurance,
pop culture gossip.
Yeah.
It's real estate, which is an exciting topic, but it's fun to see how much agents really care.
Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host, but don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the BNR word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. Yeah, let's dive into that. So this is a really good segue. So you started with the broke agent. I'm assuming you were kind of like a team with one, and then you organically grew. Then you started BAM, Broke Agent Media, which is what we've been talking about. Talk about BAMX, because I'm a member, just so you know. And I think it's valuable for a lot of different reasons, but I'd love to hear your take on like how BAMX came to be and like why that's valuable for like productive agents.
Yeah. So we're actually not Broke Agent Media anymore. We changed the name. So Broke Agent Media, when we first started, we're like, all right, that it makes sense to use the Broke Agent brand because the Broke Agent brand was well known, but people don't want to share a URL that says brokeagentmedia.com. Right. We don't want to be affiliated with being and broke agents.
Richagent.com was taken.
So now it's, business and media, business and marketing, big agent media. Like we're kind of figuring that out, but it's basically awesome. Business That's and cool. marketing agents for change is what we're going with.
So BAM is really more
it's BAM.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. It's now BAM.com, and business and marketing for agents of change is our slogan.
I think if you get a spokesperson, I don't know if he's still alive, but remember that wrestler Bam Bam Bigelow?
Oh, dude.
I don't remember. That's the only sport. That's the only sport that I can't just fire back and forth with you guys on.
He's probably we're old heads. We're old guys.
Yeah.
But this guy, he was crazy. He was like the bald head. He was all fat. He had tattoos.
Mm-hmm. He was like King Kong Bundy.
Yeah, Bam Bam Bigelow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So jump into BAMX. So like, how'd that come to be, and like, where's that going?
Yeah, kind of how I mentioned at the beginning, where just real estate education in general is awful. Continuing ed teaches you nothing. Pre-licensing teaches you nothing. You get education from so many different spots where you get coaching education. You take a course for someone who sold 2 homes and somehow duped you into pay $1,000 to take their real estate training course. You take a YouTube course over here. You get templates from this platform. Like, you want to be an all-encompassing education platform in community. And it started with just a couple courses, but basically it's a new training every single month, from Instagram to YouTube to mini chat to objection handling with Tom Toole to Canva marketing with Haley Ingram to Byron's agent tactic courses, where we're consistently teaching you content and teaching you agent tactics and marketing with stuff that is actually happening now, right? Because all this stuff evolves. Like Instagram, from when we started BAMX, has already completely shifted. So we're updating all those trainings and courses. And then we have biweekly masterminds with our community. So anytime they have questions about these courses or trainings, or they want to brainstorm content ideas, or we bring in guest speakers to go over their listing presentation, we have a live virtual interactive mastermind every 2 weeks. And now we just started giving them actual content, because we realized that the people want stuff given to them, right? Like, it's one thing to do passive training and courses. That doesn't necessarily get people excited. You're going to probably look on BAMX, which is now, we have such a massive bank of content. You could almost look on BAMX and find, what skill do I need to improve, and watch a training on that. But now we're giving you 3 social media templates a week, 2 video scripts a week, and 1 email script a week, on top of these, massive data PDFs of our hot sheet show notes. And then we have the Facebook community where people could ask questions and basically interact with other BAMX members. So it's really community, courses, trainings, and templates, all done for you. And then also, we actually show you what to do. So on these courses and trainings, I'm in my phone showing exactly how I post an Instagram story, where I put the link, what sort of language I use, how to get more engagement.
I think I actually watched that one. It was really good. Yeah, it was like, it's like step by step, which is highly valuable.
And it's extremely affordable compared to, like, one of these courses we could sell for $800, right? If we just said it's the Broke Agent Instagram course, we could do that. But we wanted to separate ourselves from all these other kind of course and training platforms where it's just one course. You get a course every single month.
Yeah. I think
it's a course on something that's relevant. And we listen to our feedback from our community and say, what is it that you guys want? Oh, you want a course on lead magnets? Here's how to plug a lead magnet, a 45-minute training that I just did. That could be worth, $800 again. So it's great. And it's growing nonstop, but we're working on the platform and constantly evolving and figuring out what people want.
Yeah, what's great about that, so I lead a team of agents here in Philly, and I'm constantly looking for ways to train them in different ways. I get stuff off Inman, I get stuff off all different blogs, I get stuff off podcasts, and I think your stuff is great, because it's not necessarily you're like, okay, let me take this and just like completely regurgitate it, but you're saying, like, it's almost like me going into BAMX, giving it a try and being like, this is what I did and this is what happened from it. Because that's the kind of stuff I was talking about before with NAR. Like, no one teaches you that. Like, your brokerage doesn't teach you that. You're not going to get that through a local realtor association, which is really, NAR is like whatever. Like, NAR, no relationship for me. PAR, barely any relationship, which is Pennsylvania Association of Realtors. But Tri-County Suburban Realtors is the local boots on the ground realtor association, like 10,000 members. So it's a monster. And they give you more things you can apply to your business, but they don't teach you this stuff. A lot of what they teach is like, okay, how to not get in trouble, like know your paperwork, like understand this, like time management, and all that stuff is great. Like working with buyers, working with sellers, it's helpful. But I think one of the hardest things about staying in the business in real estate, because again, you were an agent, so I know you can relate to this, is how do I get enough sales to stay alive? Because you're only as good as your next sale. You could have the biggest sale of your life and it was an amazing transaction. You made like 50 grand, like you gave a bottle of champagne, they move in, they give you an online review. They're like, oh, Eric, we love you. You're the greatest buyer agent ever. And it's like, okay, like what's next? Like if you don't have a flow or a marketing plan or a strategy, which is where I think, that's why I want to mention BAMX, because I am very slowly digesting the information, but as I'm starting to realize that, like for you guys from where you started and where you've come, it's very highly valuable to agents who are productive. Because even someone like me who's been doing this for 15 years and leads agents, these are things I don't teach. And it's a different way for the one who's more social media minded. Not everyone is, but the agent who is will learn from that and be like, I'm going to take that. I'm going to try and build my business a little bit better. It's an actual business building, teaching session, if you want, video, which is also what's great about YouTube too.
And we have a lead follow-up course with Lisa Chinati. Like, again, the people that are teaching these courses, Tom Story has an entire course on his listing presentation. He has a lights, camera, leads course, which is all about YouTube marketing and video marketing, how he comes with up with his ideas and positions his content. Like and we have all of our webinars. We have our private webinars. We have private trainings. It's what you get out of it, what you put into it with BAMX. When you actually see all the content, it could almost be overwhelming. And we're going to get to a point where we could customize the experience for you, where you say, I just want to know about YouTube. Here's all the courses. Yeah. Here's all the webinars you could rewatch. Here's the thumbnail course that we have. Like, here's your step-by-step guide on basically how to start a hyper local YouTube channel. Very cool. Like that's where we want to get to a point where you could just go and type in, I need help with objection handling and cold calling. Oh, well, here are your courses right here. Here are your scripts right here. Here's all that handed to you. So we're getting there.
Like an Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
For real estate agents.
I think that might even be before.
But I think
you think I don't know what an encyclopedia is?
Encyclopedia Britannica.
34. Yeah.
That's true. 10 years is not too bad.
I think one of the things that differentiates you guys just in the way you talk about it is that you're required to put out good content that's educational. Because if you don't, people aren't going to follow and people aren't going to pay you and listen to you. They're not going to
be a member anymore. Yeah.
Whereas like anybody else is like, and NAR or whomever else, fill in the blank, is they take your money and, it's almost assumed that they're going to pay them and they may or may not have great information. But with you guys, it's almost like a requirement. You have to continue to drive the content that's going to help agents and be applicable to the daily business of real estate.
Yeah, it's a huge pain in the ass. Exactly. I wish we could just take monthly dues from someone for no reason.
That's a nice way of saying that.
To an annual fee, right?
Yeah. To be clear, all of our other content is free. BAMX is just for our members. That's the private trainings and everything. But all of our blog content, we have nothing behind a paywall. All of our podcasts are free. All of our emails are free. So we have a great funnel of free content that agents could get incredible information from if they don't want to become a member of BAMX. But I think eventually everyone's going to see the value in it and join BAMX for one reason or the other, whether it's the templates or the trainings.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I would agree with that. All right. So here's another question. So we've talked about all those platforms. Now I want to talk about events. So tell us about BAM Mania. What's going on with that? We'd love to hear about it.
We are in the very beginning phases, but October 18th, we're going to throw a 500-person event at BAM Mania. We have the event location. It's one of the newer hotels, a hotel built in 2020. So there's a little hint there. We already have 5 incredible speakers booked. It's got the sports book with the pool, so you could do your research on it, but it's going to be an incredible event. This is, again, the very preliminary stages of it. We've thrown one event and one in-person event. It was BAM Camp 2023 in, I want to say September of last year in Naples. We had 120 people there, completely sold it out. And it was really fun to see the community in person, because this is something, again, that, I've been building since 2015, that Byron and I have been building together since really the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And to see that people actually bought tickets, flew out to an event, had a blast, learned a shit ton. Like it was like one of the best feelings in the world to actually see these, digital people in person that I've had so many interactions
it's really
with.
cool.
Is it speakers? Is it classes? Is it learning? Like
is it everything?
When you fly, is it partying?
It's definitely partying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great speakers, but it's actionable, digestible stuff that you could take away. It's not the panel pontification that you go to a conference and you sit there and you see four people on social media that are completely unrelatable saying, you just got to get on video. You just got to get on video. It's like, we've heard that 10,000 times.
How many times have we heard that?
You got to be authentic.
Video's where it's at.
Instagram stories are for authenticity. It's like, we want to break through that noise. We don't want to give people the conference event experience where you sit there and it's good information, but you're not going to implement it the next day. That's how I felt going to conferences, because I would go to these as an agent.
Yeah,
I would go to the TF conferences, which are great, but I would go to the MN conferences and I would see an agent talk about how they did 200 million in GCI and they're up there, with their custom suit. And I was like, this is so unrelatable. I'm not going to do anything that person is doing.
I think the best insurance conference that I went to was actually one where you had to bring your laptop, plug in, and we are going to walk you through.
Where the hell are you plugging that thing in?
I don't know. But it was like, all right, open it up. All right, get your profile. This is how you're going to do it. It was like step by step by step by step. And everybody walked out of there after 2 days, like blown away that it was like, holy moly, learn so much. And then you're already set up when you leave the door.
At the last BAM camp, we had Tom Story talk about how to create a hyper-local YouTube channel. And everybody walked away saying, okay, now I know the exact steps to do it.
I know the formula.
Brokers, Yeah. We had a knowledge brokers panel where they did objection handling and, got questions from the audience. It's way more interactive and the speakers feel tangible because after the events, we interact with everybody. It's not like we go behind some green screen or not green screen, but the, the back room and then never see them again. And then we take our private jets and then we're out of it, right? It's like we interact.
Flipping the bird as you leave with a glass of champagne in your other hand, right?
Exactly. After doing 30 minutes on authenticity, we give people what they're looking for. And we just want to separate ourselves. So, like our content's different. Our events are going to be different. Again, this is the very early phases of it, but we're excited for BAM Camp.
Well,
I wish I could get more information, but again, it's early.
You deliver that type of value. That 150 goes to 350, goes to 6. I mean, the word gets around.
It's
and
organically, just like how they grew.
Yeah. And then you have an event that's 1,000.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere. You got to test some things. You got to see what people like, what they don't like.
But if you don't give the value.
Absolutely.
You're
not
going
to come back.
Yep.
Right. You can't throw a bad event. That's the one thing. If you throw a bad event, those people will never be customers of you ever again.
It's true.
One thing we're really focused on right now that's crushing is the virtual events. So I don't know if you guys tapped into the BAM Pro Bowl, which we threw a week before the Super Bowl, or BAM Fest.
Yeah. I did the one. I think I went in virtually to the one you just had.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we just did BAM Fest a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
These are, we got the first one, we had Ryan Surham. This one we had Jordan Cohen, the #1 Remax agent in the world.
Yes.
But we basically
that was
five or six speakers. In between each speaker, there's something funny. It's either a funny commercial for a sponsor, it's a music video, it's some fun interaction.
Yeah, it's smart.
It's different than your average webinars, right? Yep. It's like a fun experience. We had a DJ at this last one because it was supposed to be like
I saw that. Yeah, it was awesome, man. He was good.
So we had a DJ spinning for 30 minutes. The Pro Bowl had a national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner before. So we just want to make everything different and fun and throw the events that basically I would want to go to.
Dude, if you start with fun,
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. All right. So we asked you a couple questions before we scheduled this. So one of them, we just asked any of our guests, what do you love most about business? And you said the wins. Talk about that a little bit. Because again, we're reaching people in real estate. People, he's like, is that what I said? People in insurance. And we also reach out to more entrepreneurs. Again, agents and people in insurance, they're entrepreneurial just like you are. So what is it about the wins that makes you a successful entrepreneur?
Well, you know how I was just listening to Gary Vee talk about how much he loves losing and loves the losses. I don't like that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't love the losses. I don't like having to, post content that sucks or get
He's the
bad feedback or
contrarian in the
something.
room. Let's be honest.
I'm the actual contrarian by saying I don't like that stuff, honestly, because it's people that are, I love Gary Vee. He's not full of shit, but someone could just say, oh, I just love the grind and the fact that, when people give me bad feedback that I could transition off of that. I'm not like that. I want the good feedback. But when I say wins, for me, a win on a good day at BAM is we collected emails from a piece of content that we published where I put a mini chat where I said, comment the word BAM, and they opened an ebook and we collected 400 or 500 emails, and it grew the company in some way.
Yeah, that's
because
fantastic.
it's one thing to post on Instagram and get engagement and pick up some followers, but where's the actual conversion coming from? Because we give out so much free content. It's very frustrating when you just sit here day by day, publishing content, publishing blogs, writing captions, doing cover photos, sending emails, but then we're not a museum. This is what Byron always says. We're not a museum of content. This is all going somewhere. So are we getting their contact information? Are we actually having some sort of meaningful transaction? So I love it when we post a piece of content that converts. Does it get YouTube subscribers? Does it get people into BAMX? Does it get good feedback? That to me is a win. When I have a day like yesterday, for example, where we posted, I think 4 or 5 times on Instagram, 5 blog posts, and then I look at the open rate, I think we were at 42%, but our click-through rate was down. These are just all little losses of a day where it's what did we actually do today besides just feed a bunch of content to people? Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense. Yeah. And I'm with you on the email thing too. What a win that could be, because you're actually connecting with people. Anyone can look at something and like it and comment and scroll. And that's what people do all day, every day. We do it. Again, we're trying to build this podcast audience. What are we doing? We're putting content out there. We're seeing if people are sharing it, if people are liking it, if people are asking questions. But being in from a content marketing standpoint, a strategy, which is kind of how you started. You have a blogging background, so that kind of plays to that. Building a brand. What builds a brand? When people actually say, here, they're vulnerable. Here's my information. I see value in this. I'd like to learn more. And that's what's so cool about how you've grown organically too, because as you have, again, BAMX formed through necessity. And as the more agents you meet, the more agents that are successful, the Tom Tools of the world that say, hey, I can add something to this platform and we can win together, as well as the audience can win, because they're looking for things like this, because this is what I do. If I'm boots on the ground, what are the things I would want? And you're almost trying to relate to that person. And I think doing that content strategy in order to build relationships, build community. People are looking this is a piece of my business. How do I learn from BAM? How do I learn from Eric? How they have done some things to make their business successful? Because it's not that different from real estate. It really isn't. Because you're just trying to form connections. You're trying to build trust. Know, like, and trust. If people trust you, you're going to be the first call, the first email when they're like, hey, I got $1 million house I got to sell. I've been here for 30 years. Tim, I trust you. Can you come by and tell me what it's worth? Because I want to sell it. And you're doing something similar. That's really cool. I love it.
Well, everyone's kind of creating their own little real estate media company, right? Whether it's your email list, it's your YouTube channel, it's your Instagram. So you're kind of creating little mini BAMs. And that's what we want to teach people is, how do you convert those Instagram followers to email subscribers? How do you convert those email subscribers into clients? What sort of information are you feeding these people? And how do you do it in a way that isn't too salesy and is consistent enough to stay top of mind? But there's so many days where, like yesterday, for example, we film a podcast, a walkthrough podcast. We get 2 guests, we come up with the topics, we have all the links plugged in, we edit the episode, the thumbnail, it's basically probably 3.5, 4 hours of work for one episode. The episode sucked, right? And it wasn't necessarily, it wasn't because of the guests. It was just the flow was off. The topics for some reason didn't hit. The copy of is TikTok getting banned, bad for real estate marketing. No one cared about that topic. So we learned from that, but it sucks because you put so much effort. That's 4 hours of the night before. I'm writing the script for the intro, and we're coming up with these topics, and we're scheduling with the other people. Do they show up on time? Do we have our mics? Do we have our Wi-Fi? You film an episode like this. If this episode sucked, it's a waste for both of our times, right? So hopefully this one doesn't suck. I'm trying
it definitely
to
does not suck, man. You've been great.
Well, your quote, I think, spoken like a true businessman, because it's number one, you have to look at the data, look at the information, and make the changes, right? Your quote that you gave us was adapt or die. Like, make the necessary changes and grow from that. And I think that's a lot what you're saying is, and we've experienced it too. We had a show that I thought was going to be bananas. I thought everybody in the world was going to be like, check this out. And it was like, fell flatter than flat.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what do we do? What do we do? And I guess it's just, you're going to have those moments, and it's not like you live or die by those moments. It's take that moment, digest it, see what worked, what didn't work, and how to improve on it.
That's like the main thing. That's one of the pillars of branding that I always talk about is audit your content. Every 3 months at BAM, like quarterly, basically, we have a content audit where we look at our YouTube channel and we say, what's working? These titles work. Okay. Anything with the word script in it, that crushes in emails. How can we just use the word script for more things, right?
Yeah.
How do we produce more content around that? Oh, we realized very early on the metaverse, because when we started BAM, crypto and the metaverse were popping up and people were talking about digital real estate. We realized immediately no one gave a crap about that. It was our worst performing content every single time we did anything around that. So we stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So you have to look at your insights on Instagram, on email, on YouTube, and see when are, what's the retention like? Did people drop off at 10 seconds in this video? Why? Okay. So how do we change this editing? It's very time consuming.
One of the ones that I saw, sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But it was YouTube, and it was one of the metrics that you can watch is they tell you how many people go from a short to your video, like drop in your video.
You've actually looked at that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you are the analytics dude.
So you can actually then go back to your short to see, oh, okay, what did I do in this short that was pulling people over? And you can pull, like, let's just say you pulled your top 5 shorts that were converting over and just kind of try to replicate that.
Yeah. It's awesome.
With doing it.
Yeah. It's about, the adapt or die thing. I'm glad I said that quote, actually. That I got that from Moneyball. Have you guys seen Moneyball?
Yeah.
Great
movie. Billy Bean, he's in the room with all those scouts and they're trying to replace Giambi. He's like, no, we just got to replace the on base percentage of Giambi with 3 cheaper players. And everyone's saying, like, what are we doing? This is how we used to do it the old way. We're very, like, one of our core values is adapt. Like, we have to evolve. If an app evolves, we're evolving with it. We're not going to just keep posting blogs behind a paywall and put up still images because that doesn't mean anything anymore, right? Like, how do we even change our clips if our clips aren't doing well? So I'm not trying to say if something doesn't work to stop doing it immediately, because you still have to give things a try.
Yep. Time.
Right? Like we've had podcasts and shows and blogs and seen, like, all right, I tried this 10 times. Clearly it's not hitting. Now it's time to move on.
Yep.
Absolutely, man.
Great stuff.
Eric, really, really appreciate your time today. We know you're a busy guy. Why don't you tell the audience, where people can kind of learn a little bit more about you and BAM and what you got going on?
Yeah, send them out my college resume again.
Yeah. I'm like, yo,
we'll post that up on the website.
Yo, you want to learn how to write one article for a 100-year-old newspaper in college? Like, talk to Eric.
The Daily Trojan. You want to learn how to write literally one article and put it on your resume?
Can you give us that phone one again that you did? The reception.
Exactly. Good afternoon, Hilton and Highland. One moment, please. There you go.
Awesome that you still know
can find us at NowBAM. That's our Instagram, nowbam.com. Check out our YouTube channel at NowBAM. I mean, we have so much content. We have the Knowledge Brokers podcast. We have the Hot Sheet Show. If you're interested in daily market updates and housing insights from Byron every Monday at 9:30 Eastern, basically just go on nowbam.com and then you could find everything there.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. We appreciate your time today.
Thanks so much, Eric.
That's all we have for this episode, folks. So thank you for tuning in again to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.